Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 86 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, October 15th, and we got Hearts football to talk about. A big win for Effingham. That is going to be pretty much the meat of this episode today. The Hearts got a 21-14 win over a Mount Zion team that has pretty much been ranked in 4A toward the bottom of the top 10, but still ranked, for much of the season. They came into Effingham, and the Hearts absolutely having to have a win. Couldn't do without. They played probably the game of the season, I would think, against the Braves, and
Best one I've seen. Of course, it's the only one I've seen.
got themselves into a position where if they win this week at Centralia, they're probably looking at a return to the playoff field after things not looking so good at going up to Muhammad a week ago and getting stomped pretty good. You're not feeling good about maybe not feeling great about things, having to win your last two games of the season, but the boys showed up to play, Mike. They controlled the line. I think if we wanted to start the conversation about Effingham winning that game, they controlled the line on both sides of the ball and were able to run effectively, but also able to keep a quarterback who had thrown for more than 1,700 yards this season off balance and just never allow Mount Zion to get into any sort of an offensive rhythm. And it was exactly what they needed. Hats off to the boys.
Well, and I feel like I could contribute this time because I actually was able to go to the game because
Yeah.
no golf issues, no family issues, and no driving out of town issues. So
Yeah.
um, I I think probably the one thing I'd say was what I didn't feel the game was as close as the final score indicated.
Right.
Okay. I felt like um offensively, I guess the best word to describe Mount Zion's quarterback was he was uncomfortable.
Yes.
He never got to really plant and set and do what he wanted to do. He did some. Really, they had two plays in the game, Whitey, two offensive plays in the game. The
Mm-hmm.
long run by their quarterback,
Mm-hmm. For a
and then
touchdown.
he threw that nice little flag pattern down. Kid caught it at the one or the two to end the first quarter, I believe. Kid made a great catch, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
I
got
was in the north. Yeah, I was in the north end zone, standing by the fence, and I like that view. You kind of see things pop open and happen. But that was two plays. That was it. And to be honest, um, Mount Zion then ended up scoring, but I the Hearts had a chance to make them be like third and goal from the two, and quarterback kind of got out of that scrum, and I thought they had a chance to knock him out of bounds, and they kind of tried to be nice about it. I
yeah.
think if they was somebody would have tried to lower the boom or just take his legs out from underneath. Hard to run when your legs are up.
That was the play where they lined up 10 guys in the box, right? And it looked like they were just going to try to sneak it in. And
It was like third and goal from the. Well, he tried to sneak it in, and he
uh,
tried and he tried, and they tried the maybe their version of a tush push, and they were losing, and he
just
bounced it
decided to
outside,
abort.
and the Hearts had a guy get a hold of him briefly, and then he headed for the corner, and I felt like I, I don't know if he extended the ball over the line to count it. It was really hard to see if he got in, and I was 30, 40, 50, 60 feet from where it happened. I'm down there at the fence on that end of the field, and I was actually on that side of the goalpost. So I wouldn't have bet a paycheck that he broke the plane, but they
And that,
scored. That would have made it third and goal from the one or two. But like I said, the Hearts had, pretty much stuffed him twice, and then he had to bounce it outside. So yeah, I think you're right. You start with the line play. I thought they controlled the line of scrimmage both directions. I felt like the Hearts had drives, and two turnovers hurt them, and a penalty. Or to be honest, they may post two more touchdowns and a field goal.
yeah. I mean, one of Mount Zion's second score was the direct result of kind of a freakish penalty or turnover, to be honest with you. That was a weird play. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
what happened? I could not see. Was it a
also
pass
so
that slipped
well
out of his hand?
uh so yeah, Gage Gillum, the Effingham quarterback, was, and at this time it was a 14-7 game. Yes.
Correct.
Um, he, I don't know if he was trying to pump fake or actually throw, but I know the ball slipped out of his hands, hit somebody in front of him in the back, and came right back to him. Okay.
Okay.
And at that point, he took off running, and then he fumbled.
Okay.
So, and Mount Zion recovered it, got it at the let's see,
Something 25 or something.
29 is where that they got it
Yeah.
at the Effingham 29, and they ended up scoring on the play that you were just the goal line
Well,
play.
they didn't score on that play. He got knocked out. They threw the pass to the corner of the end zone. The kid got knocked out, made the
They
catch going out of bounds at like the 2.
they scored on that possession though.
Right.
Yeah. Um, Short field. So one of their
Yeah.
2 touchdowns was, kind of just kind of a fluky field position thing.
Right.
And to Effingham's credit, they got the ball back after that score with it tied at 14 and rattled off an 11 play 74-yard drive that took almost 6 minutes off the clock. Left the game with 6 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Yeah. And it was a good mix of running and throwing the ball. They had a
Yeah.
good, and you know what? They're so heavy on the run. They did it a couple times where they kind of, fake the run going to the right side, and then the tight end kind of goes against the grain and they hit him out in the left flat or somebody.
Yeah,
I think it was Reed. Yeah.
Hunter Reed caught 4 passes.
Yeah. And the Hearts had another touchdown. Reed fumbled at the 1. He kind of got thrown down flat on his back and the ball came loose, which, yeah, if you have replay, maybe the ground caused the fumble. Somebody said the chain gang thought he crossed the plane anyway before he fumbled. I don't know. But it was right there by me, and all of a sudden, man, he hit the ground, the ball squirted out.
Let me tell you something. You're like, we were confused, okay, in the press box, or Greg and I were confused because we were sure that was a 3rd down play. And then all of a sudden, when Reed didn't get that touchdown, which was very, again, very close, all of a sudden Mount Zion's running their offense out on the field. And so we thought that we had somehow lost track of what down it was.
Yeah, no, it was a fumble.
Okay. That makes more sense. I feel better about that because
he fumbled. Literally, he kind of caught it, and a guy was squaring him up and looked like he was going to beat him to the corner. And he kind of got hit and turned, and then he was kind of trying to back his way into the end zone. And the guy just, slammed him to the ground. And with the naked eye, the naked old eyes looking through bifocals or trifocals, I thought the ball came out when he hit the ground. The ball may have come out while he was being thrown to the ground. I don't know. But Mount Zion fell on it at about the 2.
Which would have, let's see, that was in the first half, and that was the Effingham had run a long drive. Like that was a 6.5 minute drive. They had started at the 33, ran several plays. I mean, looks like about a dozen plays just based on my chicken scratch notes from the, and to Effingham's credit, they shut it down. Didn't allow Mount Zion to answer after that.
They got 1 first down, I think Mount Zion did, off of that field position, and then ended up having to punt.
Yep. A few things. We mentioned Hunter Reed, 4 catches. At this point, you just kind of have to understand that, like, Gillum, there's just not going to be that 200-yard passing game. It's not gonna happen, and that's fine. But you got to be able to occasionally complete those passes that he did, just to keep it honest. And that does a couple of things. Obviously, it's a change of pace. It doesn't allow the defense to completely focus on stopping Gillum and Dustin in the run, and then it allows Dustin to be able to to do some work. And after getting just shut down by Muhammad last week, he was, kind of back to his true form. We had him at 183 yards on 31
Yeah,
carries.
had a nice touchdown scamper to give them their first score, about 30 some yards.
Yeah, it was let me look here. It was it was a nice little, it was 34. So
Yeah.
And Weldon, I got to tell you, when he got forced into action last year after the Westendorf kid got hurt,
Correct.
he worried me a little bit because
He struggled early because he wanted to dance.
yes. And he still, he can effectively put a spin move on somebody now, but it's more in control.
Right. It's an effective dance, not just I'm trying to pick a place to run instead of sometimes there's not a place to run. You just got to go try to get in the crease and get 2 or 3 yards.
And he does. He's very
he
good.
does now, yes.
He's very good at this point of being able to absorb the first contact and push forward and get that couple 3 extra yards. And on any one given play, it doesn't necessarily seem all that momentous or that important. But when you're talking about trying to gain 10 yards over the course of 3 or 4 plays, well, of course that stuff matters. It's very important, and he does it. So, hats off to him. And of course, the line is in front of you is a pretty big part of the run game, and Muhammad took that away, and Mount Zion didn't have that same kind of push defensively, and Effingham was able to really exploit that all night long.
I feel like the Mount Zion's always had that weakness of being physical up front.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like they had.
And defensively, we've already talked about it, but Effingham's front seven, their guys on the line and their linebackers really, and Coach Hefner brought, he called them all out by name during his post-game interview,
they played well.
There was a play in the second half where their kicker put one into the end zone. It was a touchback, and somebody came and gave Michael Love a little bit of a cheap shot at the end of the play. And let me tell you something.
I saw Michael's body quit moving and his feet kept going. He was horizontal. But the kid blasted him, but the whistle had blown.
Yeah, the play was
Sefton's kick was into the end zone. The whistle blew, and then the kid took about 2 steps coming across and blasted Michael. They got flagged for it, and you know what? Michael Sefton played the game a little differently from that point on.
It lit a fire under his ass, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I actually, when the game was over, I went up to his dad because his mom and dad sat down by that north end zone also. And I told his dad, I said, I just want to tell you something. Your son found another gear after he got cheap shotted on the sideline.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, he did. And yes, he did get cheap shot. But he did. And you know what? But the biggest thing is Michael really didn't react. Like some kids would have got up wanting to throw down there. And he may have been also not sure what day it was for about 10 seconds because he got popped pretty good. He got laid out. But to his credit, and I felt like the whole front line kind of shifted gears after that. And they were like, oh, you're going after one of ours that way? Now it's on. And they just kind of, from that point on, they dominated. Mount Zion's little timing patterns were all they could do to move the ball, and the Hearts secondary was disrupting that. And I know Brett talked about it after the game. They were a little physical with their receivers. They had an extra, they felt like they could not have to worry so much about the run, have 5 in the box and have 6 back. And, with the 2 deep safeties, kind of take away those deep balls. And they did a very good job. And, that was, I think, what impressed me the most, the way they played from that incident forward.
And still, despite the fact that they were, not stacking the box, still limiting Mount Zion to like about 80 rushing yards, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. And what they get 34 on a quarterback scramble.
Yeah. Makobe Adams, who's a tremendous, listen, Adams is a tremendous
athlete.
Braden Trimble is a tremendous athlete. I know.
Does Trimble play basketball?
I'm not
I'm trying to
sure.
remember. I don't think he does. I just don't remember him now. I remember the Anderson kid does. I know the Owen Owens kid does. Um, yeah, they got big, tall kids out there playing football.
Yeah, I know that the Trimble kid, and he's a junior this year. I've heard talk that he's getting looks from some Division I schools.
Yeah, well, he's pretty athletic.
But they were able to limit it for the most part. I had them for under 100 receiving yards. Now Mount Zion and their Max Preps entry, they've got them at 129. But either way, when you're talking about a team again that had 1,700 plus passing yards in the first 6 games of the season, that's a victory to hold them down. The
Oh,
way,
you mean the whole team had 129 through the year?
yeah, like they had him down for they had Adams down for 129 passing yards. I didn't have.
Okay, I thought you meant they had Trimble with 129 receiving.
No, they had him at 64, and it's
Okay.
possible. It's possible when I'm writing this stuff down, like sometimes shovel pass. Sometimes I'll just in
That's all
the
right.
in the heat of the moment write a shovel pass down as a run play. It happens, something like that. It's happened to me a couple of times this year.
But yeah, I just felt like the few times Mount Zion, and then I was shocked in that fourth quarter, those last couple drives, Mount Zion tried to run the ball a couple times
Hmm.
and got.
Nothing.
I'm like, there's nothing there, fellas. They're. I mean,
and
early Brett was on them about they gave up a couple running plays, and it was almost like the D line was you know, running past some things instead of being under control. I noticed it once. It was either a punt or a kickoff. I think it was a kickoff. FEM kid was coming down, and I harken back to basketball. When the guys got the ball in the perimeter and you run out at him, you don't run out under control. You chop your feet and break it down. So you're ready in case they decide to go.
Mhm.
And FEM at one point on a kickoff had a kid come flying down the field and just whiffed because he was running 100-mile an hour to Mount Zion kid plan and cut. He just kind of ran by and flailed an arm out like he was going to pull his flag off. They were playing flag football. But again, it's, I equate it to basketball where you have to break it down and chop your feet when you're going out to a contested shot and be under control. And I saw them do that once, but yeah, I was just impressed the way Effingham handled the football. And even the last, gasp drive when not the last play with 6 seconds to go, but I'm saying the last drive.
Uh-huh.
I felt like the Hearts did a really good job of giving Mount Zion absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Mount Zion got the ball with 6.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, down a touchdown at that point. And they moved, they got one first down out of the deal and then had to punt. And Effingham takes that punt, and with 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes to go, they don't score, but they run 4 minutes off the clock,
Right.
leaving, like you said, leaving Mount Zion not enough time to
Well, then Mount Zion went 4 and out, and on the last play, I think was it
have
Michael
batted
Love
pass.
spiked the
Yeah,
pass down, but then
which
the Hearts
just that
weren't
that
able to run out the clock, and it was, and I know Brett explained made a
well,
lot of sense on his explanation.
no. So a couple of things. First of all, that last play of the game that you mentioned, where Love got in the backfield and batted the pass down, kind of just emblematic of the kind of rejuvenated second effort that the front line had, the front seven had in that second half of the game. For him to just kind of get in there almost unimpeded, and Adams, like, just, I mean, he got rid of the ball and play. It's not like he held the ball for a while. He got
No,
it out quickly, but Love was just on him. I thought that just sort of summed it up. It was a good encapsulation of how it went for Mount Zion down the
no,
stretch.
I see what you're saying. I agree with that.
But yeah, you're talking about when Effingham's trying to just run the clock out.
Well, and the discrepancies with when you go to 40, when you go to
Yeah.
25, there was
So let me.
confusion on everyone's part. And I'm sitting there and I'm standing by Andy Johnson, and I'm almost like the official needed to call the two head coaches to the middle of the field because they'd go explain it to one and then come explain it to the other. and then try to do something, and then, oh, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Just
It was like point counterpoint, and it was just like, bring them out here.
yeah.
Just like in basketball, they bring two coaches to the middle of the floor on the official scorers bench and tell you, here's what we're doing.
So just for anybody who wasn't there, what was going on was Effingham's just trying to run the ball and run the clock down. But
Right.
2 consecutive plays, Effingham gets called for holding, and both times the Mount Zion coach declines the penalties because he wants.
Yeah, you don't want to give Effingham another play to run time off.
But the problem is that there was some confusion about how much time to put on the play clock, apparently.
Right, because when there's a penalty, you go to 25, not 40.
But they couldn't get together on that. And then after the first play, when they finally got together on how much time should be on the play clock and how much time should be still on the game clock, then they tried to put the ball back on the original line of scrimmage, even though Dustin had gained 3 yards on the play and the penalty was declined. So then they had to get that straightened out. And then the next play happens and the same damn thing happens. Effingham runs the ball. They gain a little bit of yardage. There's a holding call against the Hearts. Mount Zion declines it again because Dunstan probably advanced the ball a yard or two. But then
you never got the yardage put on, did you?
That time they never gave Effingham the yardage, but it was the exact same situation and more discussion. I'm telling you, the game grinded to a halt. And I don't know, like, it seems to me.
I guess my question is, and I know Brett explained it as administering the penalty, and it should go to 40 if it was declined. But if it's declined, in essence, haven't you still administered the penalty? Their penalty was called, and then they decline it. I started thinking, well, maybe it should go to 25. But I again, I don't know. So,
well, and here's the thing.
But it all ended up.
No, it was fine. It was mostly just annoying. I mean, it was sort of, and like we were
talking, delayed me going home is what it did. Delayed me leaving.
While we were talking before we started recording, I mean, the way that you don't have to deal with that situation is on the running play where the only objective is to run the football and keep the clock moving. Don't hold. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you're not trying to gain 7 yards on this play. You are simply trying to hold on to the football and keep that clock moving.
And you got to run a play versus take a knee, because I don't know if you could have just taken knees and gone to victory formation and ran the clock down. You might have 40 seconds. You had a minute 40. 3 of those is 120.
Mount Zion did use the timeout in there, though, because
they did.
So they had at least one left. So you definitely wouldn't have been able to just kneel the game away at that point.
Right, I agree. And I thought Michael Sefton did a good job on that punt because they came after him in a hurry.
Yeah, no, he got
it off. He got it to the sideline where it wasn't returnable because, Trimble, arguably maybe the best athlete on the field. You didn't want him doing anything with it. So the punt kind of stayed in bounds, ran another second or two off the clock.
Yeah.
When they came out then and ran their last play, they just tried to do a little double pass. One of the receivers stepped back off like a screen, and he obviously, I wouldn't think he's got a better arm than who threw it. Trimble threw it.
Trimble threw it, yeah. So he's their that's the problem, is he's their best receiver. So by
I understand they throw it to him to suck everybody up and get him to throw it behind. In essence was a decoy, but it was. I just didn't want to see the Hearts trying to intercept it, battle it around, and 4 guys fall, and then one Mount Zion kid cradle it and walk into the end zone.
Yeah, that would have been.
I saw the Hearts lose a game. We were talking about this, mind you, because they said, "Oh, just run around and fall down." Well, my junior year, playing Newton, Jack Klosterman's going for his 200th victory. I forget what number it was. They had a cake, presentation, guy who ran the clock, George Winthy, was out of the booth going downstairs to present Klosterman with the cake. Brad Neat took the snap, dropped back, scrambled around, fell on it. Whoever's running the clock shut the clock off 1 second. So now Newton has the ball at the 28 or the 30-yard line, 1 second. And they had a wide receiver. I want to say his last name was He's a big 6'7" kid. It wasn't Cat Simplest, but it was something like that. He's in their Hall of Fame. I see his picture when I go to the gym. And they just throw a Hail Mary in the end zone on the last play of the game, and he makes the catch, and Newton beat us.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and that was some discussion between Greg and myself. Like, what should Effingham do on this fourth down? Because there's still 25, 28 seconds or whatever left. And he was kind of talking.
Oh, on the fourth down, there was 11. I think there was 11 seconds with Sefton punted.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong half. Yeah. 11 seconds. So, like,
that's too much time to run out. That's too much time to run out.
That's a lot of time to kill. And you leave yourself, the problem is you leave yourself open for losing in the absolute dumbest possible way. Like, it's people talk about it forever.
What's the chances of Gillum running around to kill time and fumbling the ball while he's running? Oh, it happened once or twice during the game.
Yeah.
So no, you don't let those things be a possibility. Yeah. Sefton did a great job, punted it out towards the sideline, and it was over. It was kind of neat to see the students rush the field. It was, kind of nice to be out there.
And I mean, it was a nice night because they were really cramming in the honors.
Yeah.
They stuffed it full. They had
honored Scout Mosier for 32 years and doing the PA.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Sid Kibler, 31 years of being a spotter on the sideline.
And they got Mark Mayhood in the first half.
Mark Mayhood for his years,
for all the work
that Sid Kibler is the son-in-law of Jack Klosterman.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And Andy Johnson ran up there and made sure that that Dave Woltman got going to be his last home football game as the Athletic.
Well, they were trying to get Dave on the other side of the field. He kind of watches the game for the most part from the gate area over there on the visitor side, so he can kind of. And Dave came out and did the Queen wave and all, but all deserving. I was glad they did all that. That was really cool. It was good to see, and I was, glad to see Scott and Sid get there. Attaboy.
Yeah,
and Mark
it's good. On the road this year, a couple of places, Charleston and Muhammad have done little send-offs for Greg Sapp,
who may be back doing football this year.
Which has been nice, but nobody actually said he doesn't. I don't think he knows for sure what he's going to do.
So. No, I agree. I just know he's done doing basketball, doing baseball.
Yeah, I mean,
he likes football because it's a short season,
and listen, folks, you'll still hear him on those other sports occasionally. It's just not. It's not going to be all the time anymore.
They're not going to turn the mic over to me and you all the time.
But yeah, I know that was. I think there was some consternation from some of the Effingham parents.
Yeah, I agree.
What are we going to do? And it's like, well, we don't need to do anything yet because he hasn't.
Right.
So
no, I didn't expect it because, and I guess people don't listen to the details. Greg has come out and said he was, after this football season, he's done doing basketball and baseball.
Yeah.
Unless he's needed to help in a pinch. He's never said he's done doing football. And I think the thing he likes about football is it's Friday nights. It's not Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, know.
Yep. No, I mean, we've had that because, he said to me last year, how would you feel about me keeping on with football for another year at least? And I was like, keep doing football as long as you want to. People want to hear your
voice. Just he needs everything else off his plate.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a lot of good stuff happening there. And something else that Brett mentioned during his post-game interview was like, it's nice that everybody, kind of rallies around coming to the football games on Friday nights, but it's been a great fall for Effingham sports just in general. I mean, the soccer, volleyball, cross country at both the high school and junior high levels,
all had pretty good stuff.
Yeah. And their tennis is in their postseason. So they've, it's been, there's a lot of good things happening at Effingham right now. So it was good.
And I'll tell you, soccer, I think this week hosts a regional.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice to use the facility to host a soccer regional.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been good. The area, we've had a really good fall so far.
So let
Before
me,
we go anywhere else, and I forget, St. Anthony Boys Junior High won state cross country.
did they?
Yeah.
Um, we can kind of put a bow on the football talk, but I do we need to briefly at least mention that, you know, I mean, I touched on it at the beginning, but Effingham's 4-4 now. And so they go to Centralia this week. And the way Brett talks, Brett, he's got a good handle on what the situation is with the playoff points. And so he seems pretty confident that if they can get this win at Centralia, then 5-4 is going to get them in. I mean, if you're watching this, you probably understand how it works. But 5-4 doesn't guarantee you a postseason spot. 6 wins guarantees it. 5-4, you got to have a good enough strength of schedule.
5-4 guarantees it if you win your conference.
If you win your conference, but that's certainly not happening with Muhammad.
No, Muhammad ran the table.
Centralia is 2-6 this year, and their wins have been against Marion and Granite City. The thing is, I don't know. Like, I mean,
you're right. And I talked to somebody that Salem beat them, and they said Salem was down this year. But they're going to have athletes. They scored points against Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon beat them pretty good Friday night, but they ended up
70-41. 70-41 was the final score of that game.
Yeah. So was defense optional at some point? Was Centralia still had their first group in, and Mount Vernon giving kids a chance to play? Who knows?
Yeah, don't know.
Effingham's. I think if they have trouble stopping people, that helps Effingham because they're going to run the ball and probably wear you down. And Effingham's defense, yeah, well, yeah, keep the ball out of your hands. But I think Effingham's defense, unless they're on the field all the time, can stand up.
Yeah, I hope that they're able to continue to sort of channel some things. I think football coaches will occasionally say some things that are stretching the boundaries of realistic to their kids about how respected they are, or what people think of them in order to get them fired up.
Sounds like basketball.
Get that chip on their shoulder, and I wouldn't be above it if I were an Effingham coach to just say, listen, they think you stink. They think you stink. You need to go out there and prove it, right? Like,
oh no, I'd use those words, Whitey. That wouldn't be as effective. But no, that's the psychology of coaching. You like to put a chip on your kids' shoulders. The respect part. Throw the respect.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll be talking about, and listen, 5-4 is going to get you a really tough playoff matchup. Okay. Yeah. We saw that last year. We had to go to Rochester, and they toyed with us for a while, and then they took care of business. But you'd rather 5-5, or listen, I shouldn't just assume anything, but I'd rather anybody would rather get into the playoffs at 5-4
than not get in.
Really good team than finish.
Maybe they could draw the Bears.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we don't need, I
couldn't pass that. I actually watched some of that game today.
I did too. Actually the guy, the backup quarterback, the Badging guy, he
did okay until he threw that pass. He thought he was playing with the guys at lunch hour.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't understand that one.
Well, he probably didn't understand it either. I'm sure there's not a lot of.
I think that was one of those underthrown. Come back to it. These people didn't get the memo.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll hopefully have some playoff football to talk about this year, but some more business has to be taken care of. We also talked before we started recording that apparently they had a pretty exciting end to the National Trail Conference volleyball tournament. You might remember that very recently, St. Anthony and Windsor Stew Straws played a regular season game that essentially decided the conference regular season, and St. Anthony got a win over Windsor Stew Straws, even though I think Windsor Stew Straws was probably maybe favored going into that. I
don't know,
but they played a good match, and then they turned around and both ended up in the top flight Saturday, last night, for the NTC tournament championship, and they had a whale of a first game that St. Anthony led 24-22 at one point. So they're a point away from putting it away. Windsor Stew Straws ends up winning that game 31-29. So it went deep. Lots of tense moments there. St. Anthony puts that on YouTube, by the way. That's where because the scores haven't made their way
Right.
into
I told you I heard about it at church today.
yeah.
So
And then I found it online. So if you look up St. Anthony High School on YouTube, you can find video of that match, and I will probably watch it closer after we finish
they
up.
play that at the Inlet Center.
Yeah, they do.
I
And then,
usually host that because it's the biggest facility.
yep. And then apparently the Hatchets after that were feeling pretty good about themselves because they won the
Well, and
second.
I'm sure there was St. Anthony had a letdown after having it and then going that long. That's got to be tough to bounce back. You see that, I think, more often than not when a team will go into quote overtime in a volleyball game like that and lose. Sometimes the next game's not as close.
Yeah. So 31-29, 25-16, Windsor Stew Straws wins the NTC volleyball tournament. I would wager a guess that both of those teams are pretty capable of making a really nice little run.
There should be, I think, usually they end up different regionals.
Yeah, if you want to,
Windsor Stew generally kind of creeps north.
if we want to hem and haw for just a second, I can.
I'm a professional himmer and a har.
They may not.
Yeah, it should all be out.
Well, they've got the subs. They've got Windsor Stew Straws looks to be
Up north somewhere.
yeah, because Windsor, they're hosting their own sectional, as a matter of fact.
Okay. What regionals feed into it?
And Effingham St. Anthony is going to the Nokomis sectional. Well, I'm
Okay,
looking.
so they don't even go the same section.
Yeah, so they could. So here's St. Anthony is the top. They're not the top seed in the St. Elmo regional. North Clay is.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't. That's interesting. North Clay is the top seed in that regional. They're the 2 seed they're a 2 seed in the sectional. And St. Anthony's a 3, and they're both at St. Elmo. And then Raymond Lincolnwood is hosting a regional in this sectional.
They're the 1, and who's the 4?
Raymond Lincolnwood is the 1, and Nokomis is the 4.
Go.
Although, wait a minute, that's not who would play St. Elmo. It'd actually be the Dupo regional, which is Hardin Calhoun. They're the number 1 seed, and Father McGivney is a 4 seed there. So St. Anthony's going up to Nokomis. Meanwhile, Windsor Stew, like we said, they're hosting a sectional, and in fact, they don't even feed into the same super sectional.
Really?
Yeah, that Windsor Stew Straws, theirs feeds into Milford, which maybe
I've been to Milford.
Is that south then? Is that what's going on?
No, that's up north.
I don't.
It's kind of up near Watsika.
Okay.
North of Rantoul, out in the middle of nowhere.
Windsor Stew Straws is the 2 seed and top seed in their regional. They go to Okaw Valley. They'll play if it goes to chalk, they'll play Chrisman in the championship of that one. And you got Cerro Gordo is the number 1 seed in the Casey regional that would play. You got they'd play the winner of the Lee Roy regional, which has got like Broadlands, Heritage, Hayworth. I have no idea, but for Windsor Stew Straws, you'd be looking at the Salt Fork regional out of Catlin.
I predict the Hatchets are in the super.
Champaign Judah Christian would be your number 1 seed on that side of things. That if Windsor Stew Straws might have to go through them at some point, or Villa Grove is a possibility, and again Chrisman in that same regional. So we'll see. It's possible. It's possible that you could have 2 NTC teams end up at state, I guess, is
in the Final 4. Good, because I'm assuming St. Anthony goes south, but then you run into. There's usually people out of the south that are pretty good.
Yeah, St. Anthony would go to the Oakaville, so they're the ones that go south. They would go to the Oakaville super sectional, or North Clay could,
Yeah, so that's where you run into some of that Metro East flavor,
Yeah, and
I remember when I was coaching, they went to the Red Hill sectional and ran into either Modern Day or Central, and they were really, really good. So Anthony was very good as well, but many big girls on the breeze team.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Everything's sort of wrapping up though.
Tennis sectional got rained out Saturday and got moved till tomorrow. Started at 11 o'clock. So all those tennis kids get out of school all day tomorrow. They're almost like golf kids.
It's a rough deal, man. I'm sure it's upsetting to them.
Sure they are. There'll be some teacher upset. Oh, you have a test.
Well, it all comes out in the wash eventually. I
It
would.
does. It does.
What else we
Usually,
got? Anything else we need to talk about? I'd be lying. I didn't watch the Illinois football game yesterday, so I don't know.
yes, I watched a little bit of that.
I kind of figured they were about due to win a game that they shouldn't, since
they played pretty good. Their defense, kind of did some things. The law firm kind of made some big tackles. Offensively, Altmaier just, he didn't
mess
hurt
it
him.
up.
Kid from where's the Fagan kid from? Is he the Cerro Gordo or is he the? You got two kids from Central Illinois, or are there only running backs left?
Well, the one was from Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond, correct?
Is that Fagan or is that the LeSure?
Boy, just a second.
I got a him and haw again.
You do, because I forget the kid's name. This is going to take me an extra minute. Fegan, yeah, Caden Fegan is from Atwood. Yes, so he's
okay. He is a stud, 250-pound running back, but he came out of the game late yesterday holding his arm. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he was injured. And then I think it's LeSure is the other kid. He maybe is a Gibson City kid. Those are their only running backs they had yesterday. Because all the other kids are hurt.
Lowry is what I'm seeing. Aiden Lowry from Gibson City.
That's his last name. I'm sorry. Yeah, those were the only two running backs they had.
Kind of like the Bears today. They were going on like their fourth string running back too.
And their second. Well, they hired
second string quarterback by the time it was all said and done. Yeah,
they brought Peterman back. Wasn't he on the Seinfeld show? Wasn't that where he came from?
Yeah, but I don't think you can only. I think generally you only have two. Isn't it? Well, you can have the third guy dressed, but he doesn't have to be part of the active roster. Isn't that the way it works now? Like
I have no idea. That would require me to follow the NFL.
I think in the case of an injury, maybe your third quarterback can still he doesn't have to be on the 53 man when the game starts if somebody gets hurt. I don't take my word for it, but anyway,
I watched a little bit of that, and the Division II quarterback came in, and once they let him throw a ball more than 3 yards, 2 yards downfield, he did okay for a while, and he got the fans fired up, and they were making noise, and the Bears are going to win, and they're starting to sing "Bear Down."
Oh, and nobody thought the Bears were going to win.
Bears fans were. Oh yeah.
I was in the recliners saying, "Hey, it's nice."
Those people in the stands, deep in their Southern comfort, they snuck in. They thought the Bears were going to win.
I was sitting there thinking, it's nice that he doesn't look completely lost. This is promising that maybe. Apparently, Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt again today for the Raiders, so
he gets hurt a lot.
Oakland and Chicago play next week, and that could be a real real snooze fest.
I saw the Rams won, so
yeah,
they got two good receivers now.
The important thing is that my fantasy team remains in first place in the league.
There you go.
We're not showing signs of slowing down, so there you go. That's good. And I don't have much of anything else interesting to say, and I don't know if you can hear it or not. I went to a concert last night, and I'm a little hoarse.
Where'd you go? I saw that.
Indianapolis. We went and saw a band that you have probably never heard of called The Darkness, and they are I've seen them 4 times now in the last 20 years.
What genre are they?
They would call themselves a glam rock band. They're kind of a throwback.
So a throwback to the hair metal?
Kind of, sort of. I wouldn't call it hair metal, but there's some touches of that. They consider Thin Lizzy to be a big Thin Lizzy and the Cult, and those are some of their big influences. AC/DC, they're kind of all over the map. So
Okay.
it was a good time. It was a good time. I've been a big fan for a long time. I went and
So is
saw.
this an outdoor show?
No, it was in a place called the Vogue Theater in
Oh, I
Indianapolis,
saw it. Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah.
and it's actually a pretty small venue. It was sold out, and it was pretty packed. But
Did you get in the mosh pit?
well, there was no choice. There was no seating in there. There were a few tables, but you had to have paid for them. So yeah, we were. But the crowd. So this band put out their album 20 years ago, their first album, and I went and saw them on twice on that tour when they were supporting it back in my young days when I was a little how do I put it? I probably had better time at those concerts than I might have at this one in some ways. But now the whole crowd is people my age or older, and so even though we're all on our feet in the pit, it wasn't.
There's no banging into each other, jumping
No,
around. Okay.
no,
All right. I was worried you
no,
might get injured.
no. Just just singing along and yelling and getting a
There
little
you go.
hoarse. That's
There
okay.
you go.
So,
All right.
but late night getting back from Indy. So
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned, I guess they had great crowds all 3 nights out the lake for that show.
that's
I've
what it
heard
sounded
they're
like. That's what it sounded like.
already round 2 is in the works for next year. They had to kind of fight through some weather issues, but it sounded like they did.
I would have liked to seen that Blackberry Smoke show for sure. That's a band that I've enjoyed quite a bit over the years. But
Yeah, they were Thursday night, weren't they?
yeah, they were Thursday night. Friday I couldn't make it, and no offense to the people who enjoy that kind of thing, but I wouldn't have gone to that show anyway. But then yeah, Saturday would have probably been good too.
Brett
But
Michaels would have been right up your alley. Buddy.
yeah, I like a good Poison. I assume he plays Poison songs. I don't know if he's got a solo catalog or what. Is
He's got
this?
it. He plays a
I don't know.
little everything.
We're way off the plot now.
We are.
But it's still only 45 minutes. So we're
Right. You
still
know what? I'm going out on a walk with Mrs. Wilson. So if we
all
end it
right.
here,
Well, you better put a jacket on. That's all I'm gonna say. It's
I'll put my Indiana hoodie on just in case anybody drives by and wants to see it.
uh it's so they can aim better, They can
Whitey. Hey,
all right.
Indiana High signed a 5-star recruit today. Got him away from Kansas.
For basketball?
Yes.
Like for next year?
Yeah.
Hmm.
McNeely, maybe is his name. He's a sharp, a 6'8" swing man who can flat shoot it.
Well, I'm sure he'll find a way to underachieve. So
Ah! Oh, I want to wrap this up. We had that little show. We talked about the IBCA and the Basketball Hall of Fame.
yeah, good thinking.
Went over Wednesday night for that at the Teutopolis Banquet Hall, KC Hall. Pretty good crowd. Really was a pretty good crowd. I was glad to see that. Panel, I know Chet Reeder talked. Coach Crawford was the MC, so he never really had his own presentation. And I want to tell you, Kenny did a fantastic job at kind of being the MC. He really did. Because he'd introduced everybody, and then he had Chet spoke and, kind of talked about, how when he was a kid, it meant everything to know that someday he was going to be a Sullivan Redskin and these kids from T-Town. And he emphasizes with his kids how everyone watches you and these kids want to be you. And very good. He did a very good job. Tech I don't think, enjoys and embraces being a public speaker. So I think it was even better for him. And like I said, I thought he did a really good job. Then Jay Scheidler spoke. Jay looked like he could still shoot it a little bit. Jay did a good job. He talked about, and I guess I had forgotten their second year, his junior year at Lawrenceville, they were 2A. So they didn't even get out of the region. They won the state his sophomore year and then got third his senior year.
Lawrenceville was
Lawrenceville back then
in a
went back and
two-class
forth.
system?
Huh?
Lawrenceville was a 2A school in a 2-class system?
For 1 year.
They must have been.
And then magically their enrollment dropped enough to be under the line next year. Just saying. So it was really good. He talked about playing at Kentucky. and winning a national championship at Kentucky, and how he and Jack Givens combined for 43 points in the championship game. Jack had 41 and he had 2. He had, I think his career, he was like just between 750 and 800 points. And again, pre 3-point line. The man could shoot it. I still remember watching the state tournament on TV. I mean, he could flat play. Then Dad spoke. And, he did a good job. He was.
I heard that Mr. Wilson held his own pretty well.
Yeah, he did. And he fell back on the old, well, I don't have any notes. So, he read a couple things out of his book. He actually sold 13 books that night. Read a couple things out of his book. My favorite story of the book about the blind gentleman from Macon. Sure. He read that. But it was good. And he talked about, the best part was what he said, interviewing Ken Crawford after a basketball. He said, I'd say, Kenny, pretty good ball game tonight. And then Dad would be like walking around, looking around. He goes, Crawford would talk the next 20 minutes if I'd let him. He goes, you just ask him one question, then he'd recap the game. And he did. He kind of took a shot at Crawford a little bit. It was funny. And then we had really more question and answer. Ron Felling really didn't speak.
Right.
He answered questions, but he didn't really talk. And Ron's getting along in years a little bit. And it was funny. Lawrence Carey did the same thing. Then Lawrence wanted to introduce his kids in the audience. And Donna Rinker was there. Introduced her and said, my kids are here. Donna and Dennis and Diana. And it was Doris, not Diana. And Doris stands up. I'm Doris. It was hilarious. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what. You sit down and start talking basketball with Lawrence, he remembers stuff like it was yesterday. But got his kids confused, and Doris called him out on it. It was pretty good. And then I really didn't realize the gentleman from the IBCA who kind of runs these shows and with the Hall of Fame. I can't remember his last name now.
Bruce Burchow.
Yes. He spoke a little bit, and I want to get him on as a guest. I'm going to reach out to him. I'd like to get him on as a guest in the next week or two. But one of the things he spoke about, which never dawned on me until he brought it up, he talked about the 1970 state tournament. And he said there was a quarterfinal game, and you could see all these people nod because everybody knew the game he was talking about between St. Anthony and LaGrange. And LaGrange had all these D1 athletes, and LaGrange ended up winning 89-88. And he said, had St. Anthony won that game, the 2-class system would probably have been delayed by at least 10 years. And he said, because of that game, there was momentum then to go to the 2-class system.
Yeah. And
then on the way home, Dad was telling me that St. Anthony was down 24, 25 points at the half.
End up losing.
And John Keller, who loved to press and run and gun, I guess they finally got the press working right. And Dad just says it was a furious comeback. I think you may even be able to find that on YouTube. I'm sure it's horrible quality, but I may have to look and see if I can find that on YouTube one of these days.
I know that I'm just looking right now, and the championship game from that year is out there. It looks like there's several games from that state tournament that are
1970.
So you might be able to find it.
But that was a great evening. And they've got a facility in, I think, Bedford Park up north where their museum is. And they kind of said, we hate to say it's up north, but that's where we had the chance to do this. And whoever did the facility has embraced them, and they're really starting to build up what they have there. And it sounds pretty cool. So, and Ron Felling, some of the questions they ask him about coaching at Indiana and some things. And, but no, it was really good. And one of the great things they asked Jay Scheidler, they said, "What's the difference between today's game and when you played?" And he said, "Well, the biggest thing is there are more sets run in our day, more set plays than today." And Felling goes, "You only like that because everyone had you shooting." But no, it's good. Dad and Jay Scheidler swapped books, so probably here in the next couple of weeks I'll get a chance to read Jay's book.
Nice. Well, glad to hear it went well. It looked
Yeah, it did. It was a great evening, and like I said, hats off to Bruce. Kenny just like I said, he did a very good job being an MC. He went from he handled him like he'd done that before. He did a good job.
perfect. All right. Well, thanks for recapping that. Hopefully, people who weren't there, there'll be a way to.
Yeah, and I think I talked to Bruce, and I think if I reach out to him, especially if we have him on the show, we can probably get. Sounds like they're going to put him on flash drives, and we can get it. And then I'm assuming with your tech savviness, you can find a way to download it and have a link on our
Sure. Yep.
on our show. But yeah, I want to get him on and talk about it. That's the plan.
Sounds like a plan. Great. I'd look forward to it. All right, Mike, I'm going to let you get on that walk. We will talk next week, hopefully about a 5-4 Effingham football team getting ready for the playoffs.
That would be and who they play in the playoffs, because when we would do the show on Sunday, that would all be done.
We would know. So looking forward to that. Hope it all works out. We'll talk to you later.
All right. See you, bud.
Yeah.